What's up, guys? Matt here, back for Sunday's edition of Every Day in the Word, and we have hit one of, if not the biggest and one of the most important chapters in all of the Bible, and that is 2 Samuel chapter 7. 2 Samuel chapter 7. I know I've been making a big deal about it. I told you about it yesterday. I told you about it a few days ago that this is coming up, and it is really that big of a deal because this verse right here, or this chapter right here, it's about David, but it really is all about Jesus and all about what Jesus is going to come and do at the time that he came, but also for eternity as well. So 2 Samuel chapter 7 here, we see God's covenant with David. You've maybe heard it said, it's called the Davidic covenant. Davidic covenant, theologians and Bible scholars will call this, and it's important because God here, Jesus is God, but God the Father, he makes this covenant with David. God doesn't have to do this. God isn't obligated to make this covenant with David, but he makes this covenant with David and says, I will establish your throne forever, he says. He says, I will declare that your throne, he says, when your days are fulfilled, verse 12, you will lie down with your fathers, and I will raise up an offspring after you, who shall come from your body, and I will establish his kingdom, and he shall build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be his father, and he shall be to me a son. Who sits on the throne eternally and reigns there forever and ever? Look at this, verse 16 says, in your house and your kingdom shall be made sure forever before me. Your throne shall be established forever. Who do you think he's talking about? I think it's very clear that we're talking about Jesus Christ, who's coming. At this point, he's coming in the future sense. He's coming to sit on David's throne, to be the King of Kings, to be the Lord of Lords, and to reign on that throne forever and ever. And so I ask you, what do you think Jesus is doing right now? Not what do you think. What is Jesus doing right now? He's not here on this earth. He's not, well, I guess in a way, his omnipresence is because he's God. But he's not physically here. You can't find his body somewhere in Israel. You can't find his bones anywhere because he went up to heaven and now he's sitting at the right-hand throne of God, reigning. His throne has been established for how long? It says for forever. And David here, we see the second half of this chapter just praising God. Obviously, this section here, it's talking about he's going to build a house. He's going to establish this kingdom. He's going to be like a son. Then it says, when he commits iniquity, I'll discipline him with the rod of men, stripes of the son of men. Obviously, in some way, in some fashion, he's kind of talking about Solomon, but ultimately, this is Jesus. This is Jesus who's going to become. He's the son of David, and he's not literally David's son in the sense of he's the next in line. Solomon is that. Solomon is that king who's going to build the temple, build that house, if you will. But Jesus is going to be the one that's going to sit on that throne forever. And we're going to be able to see that together. I cannot wait for that day when we are in the throne room, in that physical throne room before God and Jesus Christ, his son, in just the New Jerusalem as he's reigning there forever and ever. I cannot wait till 2 Samuel chapter 7 is real and is happening in real life and in real time and in a physical place. Right now, he's clearly in charge, but in a physical way, in the New Jerusalem, he will be there and we will get to see him face to face. What an amazing time that will be, and I'm looking forward to that day, and I hope you are looking forward to that day. But just this chapter is incredible because we see Jesus come and be the fulfillment of this covenant here with David. And then chapter 8, I know it's kind of an afterthought as we finish chapter 7, but chapter 8 talking about all of the amazing victories that David had. God was blessing David. God clearly loved David enough to make this covenant with David, but now God blesses David with great victory, and David sets up this kingdom that is the biggest kingdom that Israel has ever been to, where David is reigning on the throne. He's their leader. He's their commander, and just a great picture here of David, the man after God's own heart, and the blessing that God gives David because of that. But now, let's go over to the book of John chapter 14. I love this section as well, starting in verse 15, reading to the end of the chapter. Jesus here talking in John chapter 14 about the Holy Spirit and the coming of the Holy Spirit. And so, as you know, well and clear that Jesus is God, God the Father is God, God the Holy Spirit is also God. And so Jesus here, we see the Trinity working together. God, he sends Jesus, and now God, I keep saying God, I'm talking about the Father. The Father, he sends the Son, and the Son is now in the earth doing his ministry, going to die on the cross, going to rise again, and then the Son and the Father together, they send the Spirit after Jesus dies, after Jesus rose again. We see this in Acts chapter 2, where the Spirit comes on the scene and starts to do amazing ministry in the lives of those who are real Christians. And if you are a Christian, God, the Holy Spirit, is living inside of you right now. He's the one who is coming alongside us. He is our, look at verse 26. He says, he is the helper, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, and he will teach you all the things and bring remembrance to all that I have said. Just beautiful picture of what Jesus does by leaving. This is a good thing for us, that Jesus died, rose again, and ascended into heaven. He's not here anymore. It sounds weird, but it's a good thing that Jesus did leave, because it means the Holy Spirit can come on the scene, and the Holy Spirit can do his amazing work in the lives of believers. So when the Holy Spirit is convicting you, or when the Holy Spirit is encouraging you, just remember John 14, that the only way that this was possible is that Jesus, the Son and the Father, sent the Holy Spirit into this world to greatly affect the world, to convict the world, to bring remembrance to all the things that I have said to you. Jesus talking here. I love this chapter. The Holy Spirit is that helper for us. He's called alongside us to convict us and to bring us to obedience. And that's kind of what we see in Psalm 119. So if you would turn over to Psalm 119, we're going to read two more sections of Hey and Vav here, starting in verse 33 through 48. We're seeing David continue to talk about the Bible, talk about his love for the Bible. Verse 37, we see that. I've quoted that multiple times. He says, turn my eyes from looking at worthless things and give me life in your ways. And we were talking about that last week when we were going through that quarantine series, talking about what it looks like for you to stop being distracted with the things of this world, and to start being enthralled and start being distracted, if you will, with the things of God and with his word, and spending your time doing good things like that. Love his commitment to obeying him. Verse 44 says, I will keep your law continually forever and ever, and I shall walk in a wide place for you, for I have sought your precepts. I will speak of your testimonies before kings, and shall not be put to shame, for I find my delight in your commandments, which I love. Let's be praying that today, that we will find our delight, our love, or our delight in his commandments, because we love God. What a just encouraging couple verses here. I love Psalm 119. It's awesome for us to be studying this and to be reading through it. This is one of those Psalms that we could read every single day because it is so good. It is so loaded. It is so practical for when we read our Bibles. But now let's finish up Proverbs chapter 15. Proverbs chapter 15, verse 33 is our one verse for today, and it says, the fear of the Lord is instruction in wisdom, and humility comes before honor. Talking about the fear of the Lord. I know that's such a ambiguous phrase. What does it mean to fear God? Does it mean we're scared of him? Does it mean we're scared of hell if we're Christians? No, it doesn't mean that. It means that there's this awe, inspired reflection on the amazing highness of God, and the humility and the smallness of us. And we recognize that, and that prompts us to obey. That prompts us to remind us of how powerful God is, and how not he's going to send us to hell if we're Christians, but he can discipline us, and not discipline now it results in obedience. And he says the fear of the Lord is instruction in wisdom. We need to be pursuing wisdom each and every day. And so every day that we read the book of Proverbs, I hope that you are taking the one verse or the two verses or the three verses that we read, and you are putting them into practice into your day. So hopefully you can do that right now, to fearing God today, obeying him, pursuing wisdom, pursuing humility. Hopefully you can do that today, and we'll see you again tomorrow for another edition of Every Day in the Word.